when you're in a place and you feel like something bad's about to happen, sometimes people get a gut feeling.
You're working at a higher level than intuition. If you're going into a situation and have to figure out who's good, who's bad, it's higher than intuition. A lot of cops, they develop that sixth sense. Like all of a sudden they'll solve a case all on a hunch. And sometimes they don't want to talk about it because they're afraid they're going to be laughed at. A lot of investigative people, probably a lot of Navy SEALs, you develop that. You have to develop that to survive. But always listen to your gut.
Could you describe the chakras?
There's these points on your body, like your hands. I think there's one in the stomach area. It's called the solar plex. And then you have the kundalini, which is your spine. It comes up like a snake. And then you have the third eye. And you have your feet. And a lot of times when people become very sensitive or psychic, these points, they open up. It's sort of like we have an aura. It's sort of like as you become more aware or as you become more psychic, you're opening yourself up more to these energies. And so you become more sensitive.
So you become more in tune with the environment.
Become more in tune. There was some tribal leader from the West. He said, "Did you have dreams when you were young?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "When you're in your 80s, whatever you dreamt about, it will be true."
Do you remember what you dreamt about?
Yeah.
What did you dream about?
That the enemy would be China, and we will be friends with Russia again.
We will be.
We will be. I remembered that. China was the enemy.
Wow. That's what I believe.
And, this was during the Cold War, whenever I had these dreams. At that time, who would have thought of that?
Yeah.
I got a call one night from a guy from New York. And he said, "I've never been married." He said, "I want to be married." And he goes, "Who am I going to marry?" I go, "You're going to marry your neighbor." And he goes, "What are you talking about? You're crazy." And he's did this a couple of times. So one time he called and he heard me take a breath like, "Oh no, here we go again." And he goes, please don't hang up." He goes, "I'm getting married." I said, "Who are you marrying?" He said, "My neighbor." So I said, he lived next to a school, and apparently the girl was going to school there or something. So it was his neighbor.
Wow, that's fascinating. Do you put any significance on certain numbers? I'll give you an example. I had a spiritual experience in Sedona, in which I believe God was speaking to me. Shortly thereafter, I started seeing the number 444 everywhere I went. I still see it all the time.
Okay, you look up the meaning of 444.
It means your guardian angels are with you.
Okay, then you're highly protected. 444 also ends up for 12. So that 12 could mean a 3. It's also protection.
Really?
Yeah, 3 is protection.
What energy am I putting out?
Do you like the color blue? Is it your favorite color? But are you a good negotiator?
No.
But you have to be. What makes you say you're not a good negotiator?
I don't like doing it.
You've done it?
I have.
You had to do it, right? You're good at it. So you're blue personality. So that tells me that you can work with large organizations. You're probably very organized. You're probably very skilled verbally. You probably should be a writer. People like you usually manage things at large levels. You're a communicator.
Oh, right.
Remote viewing is nothing more than ESP. When somebody remote views to gather intelligence, it's nothing more than what a psychic does. The information is out there. When somebody receives psychic information, it's mental. So the information goes to the brain and then it goes on to the paper, whether you're doing coordinate remote viewing, extended remote viewing, whether you're using tarot cards, whether you're using a crystal ball. That's the manifestation of the information. So remote viewing is nothing more than ESP. It's a nice term that the scientists used. It's a nice term to use if you're trying to get money from Congress instead of saying psychic. The remote viewer, the psychic, and the people involved in the remote viewing process are blind to the target.
Did all humans have this at one point in time?
I think it's always been there. Intuitively, we know when to come out of the womb. It's like psychically, we know when to be born. I believe psychically we know when to leave, too.
Really?
I watched my mother-in-law and brother. They knew when to go. It's like they took themselves out.
Wow.
I think we all have it. It's just not accepted in our culture. Other cultures have an easier time with it. And if this is against somebody's belief system, you're not going to do anything to change their mind.
Why do you believe what you believe with reincarnation?
To me, it makes sense. I had a lot of questions about why I felt certain things or why I thought a certain way. And when I started to study about reincarnation, it closed up a lot of answers for me. I didn't believe in reincarnation at first because I was born Catholic. But once I overcame that hurdle and started saying this could be possible, I even opened up more psychically. It didn't scare me. It was like, that makes sense. I guess energy doesn't die. We can come back. Have you felt like you've manifested things that you wanted in your life?
I do. Here's an accidental one. When I proposed to my wife, I did it in Alaska, and I want to do it under the Northern Lights. And this is in August. Had no idea that Northern Lights never show up in August. That evening, the Northern Lights are out. I'm freaking out because the Northern Lights are still kicking an hour and a half later. I finally found my spot. They went away, and I just thought, God, please just give me just a glimmer so that I can just propose to my girlfriend here. Proposed to her as soon as we kissed. The entire sky lit up with the Northern Lights in August, which apparently is next to impossible.
So you manifested that?
I think so.